Today's guest on a Life and a Living podcast is Trish Tagle. Now, Trish would describe herself as an organizational efficiency warrior, which means, if you break it down, that she's pretty direct and pretty straight, and you can hear that during the interview. But we do talk about the approach that she takes because she's got a framework called SIEZE, which she works through with companies in a one-day environment to really help the team come out of that day with very, very clear actions that will support them right throughout the next quarter or 12 months, whatever that period is. But we also talk about the book that Trish wrote, which is called Everybody Knows You Suck, which is really about, managers who are leaders who have not quite made the cut in terms of the things they do. And she really talks about where leaders fall down. And we talk about, the self-awareness that leaders need to have, and how they can build that self-awareness. And it's so important. And she talks about the 4 elements that she sees as leadership, which is truth, teach, think, and trust. And she elaborates on that. But we also talk about the power of saying, I don't know, and how powerful that can be for a leader. So lots of really good conversation. I think you'll enjoy this conversation with Trish. If you want to listen to other podcasts, then please go to my website, www.johnmurphyinternational.com, and you go to the podcast there, and there are loads of other great guests that we've had on the show on A Life and a Living. So in the meantime, sit back and enjoy this conversation with Trish Tagle. Trish, it's great to have you here on A Life and a Living podcast. It's a real honor. Thank you for taking the time.
Yes, absolutely. It's so nice to see you, John, again.
Absolutely. Good to see you again. And we had a great conversation that day.
Yes.
You describe yourself, at least I think you describe yourself, as an organizational efficiency warrior. So maybe explain that. And also,
or a BS assassin.
Okay. Or, but also explain that, but also how was that different when you were working during COVID with your clients?
Well, COVID has put a damper on a lot of things, okay? But usually, let's put COVID aside. I really am a person by nature anyway that cuts to the chase. I don't like a lot of chit chat. Once I hear, fluff, everybody knows that it's fluff, okay? But I'm the one in the room that's gonna be like, okay, you've had enough of that. What are you really talking about?
Right.
Maybe not in those words, maybe sometimes in those words, depending on, who I'm talking to, if they're my direct reports or whatever. But in my business, obviously, again, I don't want to waste the client's time. Because the SIEZE framework, which we're going to talk about, takes a day. So it's a matter of let's get to it, let's get down to it, and let's get it done.
And how have you seen your clients adopting to the big change that kind of was thrust upon everybody with COVID? How have you seen the companies that have done it well? What have they done? The companies that haven't done it so well, what have they done or not done?
I think a lot of people are struggling anyway, regardless. The people who are used to working from home, having that in their bag of tricks, if we may use that phrase, they're doing better. People who work a lot with people overseas, because obviously you're in this virtual environment. People have not done so well are the ones who have an office, which most people do, and have a policy where they don't allow work from home as much.
Yeah.
Those are the people that are struggling. And I think it was a struggle anyway, because any kind of change that is this big will definitely impact the way people work. Yeah. Because like I said, work from home is one thing. You don't work from home for months,
Yeah. No, I
maybe a
mean,
day.
yeah, I mean, working from home for a day is very different to actually being told you're now working from home permanently.
Yes,
So
yes.
I think that has been different, and I think that has been quite you know, kind of a challenge for many people. But you mentioned the SIEZE framework that you've
Hmm.
got, and that's your kind
The
of
AB.
core product that you have
Hmm.
developed. And I when I saw it, I kind of thought, gosh, that's an interesting word, SIEZE. But I gather it's the Summit for Internal Efficiency and Zipped Up Evolution. Wow,
Yes.
there's a mouthful. So explain what that
It
is.
sees, and it's spelled wrong. So people are probably like, oh,
Yeah. So explain
whatever.
what it is. What is the process, and why did you create that?
Well, basically, I saw a need in the market for quicker turnaround for solutions. And a lot of consultants, I mean, and it depends on what you do, really. A lot of consultants take more time. They take 90 to 120 days. And sometimes, like I said, speed to market for everything. And that's the way people work now. And what I wanted to do for my clients is get them their answers as soon as possible. So SIEZE framework, basically, it's a summit with the stakeholders of a company, or if it's a really large company, it might be for an account.
Mm,
Okay. And I sit down with the stakeholders for one day. We work through the framework, and then at the end of the day, they have their action plan, which I apply a formula to. So it prioritizes the action actually, so they know exactly what to do. Number one, two, three, four. There's no guessing, and
right.
also it assigns it to certain people right away. So you don't leave. So it's not like a consultant is going to leave you a doorstop of a report that's 350 pages long that nobody's going to read, um, and it's actionable immediately
Yeah.
because, like I said, there's a formula that I apply, and it tells you, okay, you need to follow this exactly the way it's written.
Mm,
And then I have that one day summit with me, and then keep me on as accountability and also as a consultant to help them work through certain issues that might crop up,
yeah.
depending on what the action that they're
Yeah.
working on is. Or they, like, can say they can just hire me for that one day and then take the action plan
Okay.
and go with it. So
And typically, what period does that plan cover?
the plan can cover a year, it
Right.
can
Okay.
cover a quarter, it can cover half a, I mean, it's tailored to what the client needs.
All right. Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So if, like, in this quarter we need, what is your loftiest goal in this quarter? Because they're really suffering.
I'm going to pause there. Just so, Trish, in your book, everyone knows you suck, which subtitled "Bad Boss Stories," you talk about managers and leaders who have not quite, been up to the mark in terms of
Hmm.
what they should be doing. And I'm just
Hmm.
wondering, I mean, what were the kind of common mistakes that you saw leaders making, and what did you come across when you were researching the book and talking to people?
Well, a lot of the common mistakes that were made were basically were broken down into four areas. Okay. So I put there truth, teach, think, and trust. And those are the areas where the stories fell into. So for me, those are the pillars. I mean, obviously there could be more, but those are the main pillars of leadership. Okay. You need to be truthful to your people. You need to teach. You need to be able to think and have solutions for them because you're their leader, right? So you provide their this. I mean, not that you spoon feed them, but you teach them, and then they think, right? So, but initially, you have to be the one to step in and start showing, like, okay, this is how we need to do things. Maybe change some bad habits, all right? And then the trust is, build the trust, um, within the team. within the company. Um, and those are the places where I feel that I've worked at a lot of agencies, and I feel that managers get promoted a lot of times to incompetence.
Sure.
Peter's principle.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're looking, I mean, if you're looking at the truth there between truth and teach and think and trust, where do you find, where would you say the majority fall down or don't grasp it or deal with it or take it on?
You know, I think when you have sometimes the way I feel is sometimes when one domino isn't there, the others
Yeah.
all fall down
Yeah.
because they kind of build on each other. Okay, how can you trust somebody who doesn't help you think about something and doesn't teach it to you? And then again, how do you, how is there transparency and truth?
Right. Okay.
So you know what I'm saying? It's sort of, there's
So
like
they're
a domino effect.
so they're very interdependent.
Yes, extremely.
Yeah. So I mean, because one of the things that I do know from the work, I mean, similarly, I do a lot of work with teams, and I would say that probably I mean, the foundation of any team is trust, and that's where you kind of start building. And if you don't have that
Yes.
trust, then nothing else really follows.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, when you look at the work that you do, and you look at the book that you wrote, and obviously that reflected strongly in your thinking about the book, but how self-aware do you believe leaders are?
Oh. I think they have some blind spots. Definitely, I know that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when I would have my one-on-ones, when I was in corporate, obviously, I would ask for feedback from my team. What do you think I can, what is it that I should be doing better?
Mm-hmm.
How can I help you more? Hoping that I'm actually helping them. So it's stuff like that. I think that a lot of leaders might not be so self-aware, and they would need they need feedback. We all need feedback about how we're doing, because sometimes we think we're doing something, or maybe we've never done something, and if we don't ask the question, we're never going to know. And the people that we're leading are the ones that are going to be able to tell us, if we built a relationship with them, how we're actually doing.
Yeah. And I mean, when you're working with leaders, how do you help them to become more self-aware?
You know what? It's a matter of paying attention. And that's really the bottom line in all relationships, whether it's in the office, at work, or even outside with friends, with family. Pay attention. What are people saying without saying it? There's a message everywhere. You have people that are your coworkers or direct reports that are not really good communicators. You need to be able to see that and feel that, and be able to approach them in a way that's non-threatening to them, understanding that too. So there's a lot of finessing with the understanding of a human being.
Yeah.
And I think if you pay attention, you'll figure that out.
Yeah. One of the things that I read that you've spoken about is the power of saying, I don't know. And I just thought that you had an interesting take on that. Maybe you could elaborate on that, and why is it that you feel so strongly about that?
I don't know. Because a lot of leaders, again, you get promoted to a point of incompetence. The further away you are from the ground, okay, the further you are away from the day-to-day work. And I came from a technology, advertising, digital advertising background. Technology moves. I mean, it's so fast. It changes so quickly. So what I know today, in a week or two, there might have been an update. And now it's done slightly differently because they can just take this module and add it or whatever. Now, let's say I don't ask questions, I'm not in with my team, I'm not going to know that. So being able to say, I don't know, teach me, show me, what are you doing? Being, again, it's being interested in the work and learning. I mean, truthfully, you should be able, as a leader of a team, you should be able to answer most, if not all, of the questions that are asked of you by your supervisors about your team. You might not be able to answer every single thing because, it's hard to know every single thing. You have your own job to do. But I really do believe that people should be able to humble themselves and say, I don't know, and admit it to their team and allow their team to teach them. And, if I may go on just a little bit more, there was a program, well, I used to do this with every group that I had, but I would have a meeting, and basically that meeting would be for somebody on the team to teach something that they knew that the other team members didn't know in that meeting. So if one knew something about development, coding, that the other people didn't know, they would teach that to the other ones. So then now they're the resource for that, for my team. They're the go-to person for that, which not only, elevates them, okay, which everybody wants to be noticed. Everyone wants to be, like, hey, I know this, give me some credit, give me some appreciation. And that's great. So you're not always, it's all about me, it's all about, I'm the leader, it's all about me. No, it's about your team. It's about you supporting them in what, in what they need to learn and what they need to do to grow, to move up in their careers themselves. You don't want to keep them down. So, like I said, there's a power in being humble enough to say, you know what, I don't know that. What is that about? Tell me.
No, I think you're right. I think there is a huge amount of power in it. One of the things that you're talking about the leader there, where you're working with teams, and your SIEZE framework is about working with teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious, how do you manage to, when you go through that framework,
Mm-hmm.
to get people out of their silos and looking across and being a team rather than being a bunch of silos?
Well, if you feel, see, that's the reason why I need to be in the room and not on Zoom.
Right.
With when I do a SIEZE summit, is you get the feeling of how people work. And if one person is too dependent on another, you want to find out why. Okay, what does that person not know? What is that person not learning in their job? And what should they, maybe, they can take a course in something, outside of,
Right.
So that's, going back to your question, that's how you get them out of their silos, is by observing who's too dependent on which other stakeholder for the answers. If there's only one person talking in the room, the other people are obviously not involved in the whole team. There's only one person driving it. And, the teams, so basically the breakdown for the people that need to be in the room would be somebody from, let's say, HR. Everybody has different names now for the departments, but this is the traditional: HR, marketing, finance, operations, R&D, and management. And if it's a team with inside, then that would be the lead account supervisor, the lead project manager, the lead technical advisor, the lead designer, all the leads. So again, you can tell when people are not speaking up or they're having a hard time speaking up. Then they're not really working well as a team. Because if you do work well as a team, you all know what the other is going to say before they say it, almost. Maybe not 100%, but almost. And you can see the back and forth. And there's not one person that's sitting back like, I'm not going to participate. See, those are the things that I need to see.
And how do you then draw them out if they're not participating or they're not saying, that's what you're saying, but how do you actually draw them out? Because they need to shift their mindset, don't they?
Well, first of all, when they sign up for it, there is this webpage that they have to go through to qualify themselves. They have to read the stipulation. And one stipulation is you're not there to warm a seat.
Right.
Okay. So if you're just going to be a seat warmer, then you're not going to be in the room. Mm-hmm. Now, do you want your department or your side of the team to not be represented?
Right. Okay.
So there's already a warning.
So you
need to participate.
So you do actually challenge that quite, directly.
Forthrightly, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
And I could imagine that you would. So I think that, I mean, certainly the framework that you're talking about sounds like a very effective framework. Mm-hmm. I know we were talking about before, and we're just before we started the interview, and we're talking about, things that have impacted you, and you had something that in your studies that really impacted you. And I'm just curious as if you could just share that again, because I thought that was actually quite powerful.
Yes. So the original question you asked me was what book impacted me? And I'm like, what? But I got my psych degree, which was second bachelor's. I should have taken a master's, but that's a whole different story. And as I was going through one of my psych books, and it's been a couple of years, so I don't remember which one, strangely enough, I came upon a leadership quote. And I was struck by it, really. And it's in my book. And it's leadership is not primarily about making people feel good. It's about knowing what you are doing and knowing what to do. And that's by Edwin Locke. And I was like, yes, absolutely. You don't go around just being a clique and being friends. It's not about being friends. Working together is accomplishing something for the company. You're working for this. So as a leader, what do you know? What can you offer? And the timing has to be right. So when I read that, I looked at my philosophy textbook, and I was like, wow, I'm going to write this down.
Yeah, it's very, very powerful. It really and truly is. And if you live to it, I mean, it's a great maxim to actually follow in terms of, your own leadership style. Trish, this has been great. Thank you so much for doing it.
Thank you, John.
Where can people reach you? I mean, we would put it all in the show notes, but if they're listening right now, where can they reach you?
They can definitely reach me at trishtagle.com.
Okay.
There's a description there about SIEZE framework, as we've been talking about, and also a link to my book, which is available on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle. And yeah, trishtagle.com it is.
Well, Trish, great to see you again. And I look forward to catching up again real soon. But thank you so much for giving your time today. Okay.
Okay, great.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.